All right, I followed someone else's course on buying expired domains. Uh-oh. It apparently had good backlinks, and he said that if I just built content on it, it would get plenty of traffic. Well, that's already a pretty hard promise there. You never really know how that's going to work out, but okay. I put close to 100 articles on there, and it's been sitting for over a year now, and it's getting next to no traffic. I just created a bunch of new articles, and now it's up to 350 articles now. Okay, so you've put a considerable amount of work into this thing so far. 350 articles, and as you can see from the screenshot here, it is not looking too good. It's got a traffic of what, five traffic, less than 55 keywords, so very, very, very low for a 350 article website. It's only got 54 referring domains. It's not the craziest expired domain in the world, so hopefully didn't spend too much money on it. Have you gone in and looked at stuff yet, Nick?
I'm looking at the on page right now.
Okay. Um, how's it look like he's doing the article? Is he?
So, I mean, if we do site colon and Google, he's got 584 results,
Mhm.
which I mean is pretty solid. As far as indexed pages goes, it's a fairly big site. Um, it's a blog roll style site. That's what the homepage is.
The on page at least
Um,
looks like it has H2s and H3s and stuff. It's not
mhm.
done really. Looks like they're probably using like reused images, and there's not much going on the page. It's got some
Some
interlinking, which is
some
good.
interlinking
But
going,
yeah, the
but
article
a
looks
lot of them are
very
walls of
basic. It's
text.
just wall of
Yeah.
text, no real images and anything. I'm worried that he might be using AI or something, um,
Yes,
and
maybe.
uh, and so depending on how fast you're putting the articles up and stuff, Google might just kind of consider this content spam, depending on how you're doing the content. It does have on page, which is good, but just the lack of images, and if you're just like repeating everything that's been said a million times already, and kind of throwing up everything really quickly, it might be seen as kind of a bad thing. But I don't really know how you're doing it. Um,
Have EAT going on.
got some E8,
Um,
some eat. Yeah, it's got
yeah.
copyright, sitemap, address, phone. Does it
Yeah, I
actually have
mean
the
like
pages, or is it just all there on the footer? I got about us, about me, privacy policy.
yeah, up at the
Okay,
top.
yeah.
Um, and then, if you click on the specific author, it looks like one author, it looks like him. Then it goes to a author page, etc. So I mean, that's solid. You've got an address there at the footer, you've got a phone number, you got an email. That all looks good to me. I'd probably just toss the privacy policy and terms and conditions down there as well instead of up at the header, but I don't think that's going to hurt you. So that's just a preference, honestly. Um, yeah, overall, I mean, I've seen sites like
Anchors
this
look fine.
do okay in the SERPs. This is kind of interesting. I'm seeing three interlinking anchors with the same anchor all going to different articles.
Hmm.
Now, if you're using something like what's the anchor automation tool, the
Link
plugin?
Whisper.
Yeah. If you're using something like that, you want to be careful with stuff like this. You don't want to confuse the algorithm by using the same anchors to different inner pages, right? You kind of want to keep that strategic in the sense that you don't want to create like any kind of keyword cannibalization. That includes off-page factors as well as on-page factors.
Zoom out a little bit.
And then actually, if I look at it, it's like, okay, look at his three, or I mean his four categories. Um, Three of these categories are essentially the same thing. So that's split up kind of weird. You've got your main target, and then you've got three other targets, which are essentially, different words for the exact same thing. So that's something else to maybe consider switching up. But again, I don't think it's the reason that you're not doing that
Yeah,
well.
looking at the backlinks and stuff, I didn't really see anything too crazy in there that would make me think it got like a penalty or something. But he's saying it's been sitting up with 100 articles on there for over a year. Um,
So first, okay, yeah, so you're already on. First off, like, just looking at the overview, it's not a very strong website,
no,
right? And you're in a incredibly
but
competitive
still, even
niche.
with that, just with that amount of topical authority alone, and some links going to the site, and the links are all like relevant and stuff. They're not the greatest links in the world, but they're pretty relevant. And they're pretty okay. Um,
Hmm.
and 350 articles for getting like no traction, you'd be popping at least somewhere. Even if he's not like ranking on page one for anything, Google would at least understand what the site's about at this point. I mean, that's a lot of content in that niche. It's just a lot of articles you got there. They would, they'd be giving it some kind of love. There's something up here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's some relevant links here, but for the most part, it looks like, I mean, majority of them are kind of
Yeah,
directories, Web2s, etc. I mean, like, there's a handful of quality links
yeah,
here. But again,
but they're all relevant.
this niche is incredibly competitive. Um, Unless you're doing something like automated content without editing it, or something like that, which is the only thing I'm looking at that, yeah, like you said, is a glaringly strange thing.
I feel like it might have something more to do with a domain, though. I don't know.
Let's look up archive. But see, I mean, also he's got 500 and something index pages, so
Yeah, that's true. They are all indexed. They're indexed, but Google is saying they're
that's
not. They're not going to rank them for anything. So maybe it is the low quality content filter kind of thing going on. I just feel like, well, I just feel like for like the low quality content filter, I feel like he would at least like have like blasted off a bit, and then they would like kind of slap them down later. But
yeah. Waiting for archive to load up.
but yeah, as far as the off page goes, I don't really see anything here that like, it's not like the best links in the world or anything, but it's just nothing crazy. We see a lot worse than this, pretty often. Definitely not a lot of like power behind it, but
It was an e-commerce site before,
yeah.
as far as 2019, solid, yeah, 2020, solid e-commerce site.
I feel like,
So I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, that's weird.
Maybe it is the content though, because I mean, back when it was the ecom site or whatever, they were actually at least getting some traffic and whatnot. And then,
Hmm.
you can pretty much see like when I guess they let the domain fall off, and then ever since it's expired, it just hasn't been able to do anything. So,
You
so
know
maybe
what
maybe it is
though?
the content.
But the traffic even was like always pretty crappy. Like
Yeah,
if you look at it, it's like
but
what,
it might have,
like
they might have just not known what they were doing.
200. Yeah, but still, I mean, like if you go to archive
Mm-hmm.
and you look at it, like it was like a big e-commerce
Is it a big
site.
site?
Yeah, like I mean,
Okay.
it looks good. It's an e-commerce website. So I just like I
Could be just
even
something
if
with
they
the
didn't know what they
domain.
were doing, I don't think so. I'm starting to think it's a content issue.
Well, what you could always do is
The more we look at
just grab a new
everything.
domain, throw the content up on there, and see what happens. What do you think about that? Just take all the domain you put on this one. You could even like just migrate the whole damn site. Just migrate it over onto a new domain. Or you could even put it on like a new expired domain that's been indexed or whatever, and just see what happens. 'Cause I mean, like it's already been sitting there for a year, 350 articles for a year, and it's not doing anything. Like, what do you have to lose at that point?
Uh,
Nothing.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think I would do
Why
that.
not?
I just like I feel like it's one of those things like nothing is really broken unless he's skimping on content. Like if you are doing some sort of automated stuff, then that could explain what's going on. Depending on where you're getting this content, who's writing it. There's even ways to get content to pass Copyscape, but it's completely ripped content from somewhere. So depending on the content, if and we can
Oh
only
wait, he's
guess
got
at
some.
this,
He's
right? So
saying some
like,
stuff here. He's actually
okay.
watching. Says the images are all 100% original. The current articles over the first 100 were just put up recently. I didn't create any of the backlinks that
Oh,
came with the site. 100 articles for a year, about 250 in the last 6 months. Articles are AI, but they have been edited by me. He says. Um,
okay. So I've noticed that too, actually, with an AI campaign that I'm kind of doing is some of them will index really rapidly, and they are human edited as well, and then some of them stay, kind of off for a while. But I've noticed that also from what people have been saying since this last update, there are kind of like indexation issues across the board, kind of
but
going
he's not
on.
having indexation issues.
Well, he said he just threw up. Well, yeah, I guess not. But getting them to resonate in the SERPs. Like if I look in SE ranking, then they're not showing up in the top 100. But especially like when you're throwing up like a lot of content, then that can kind of happen. Like even Toth kind of said he wouldn't drip feed content in our podcast, but then they would start resonating a few months later.
So
If I was you, what I would do is I would send some links to this site. You said you haven't built any links the
mm,
entire time. We'll get some press going, and that's exactly where I would probably start with it. Is get some press going, natural to the homepage, naked branded anchors, stuff like that. And then, you've got one image per article and then walls of text. Like break that up, make it look more like a user friendly kind of site. Um, Personally, on the like, I would start with those two things, um,
yeah, you could try
and
that.
kind of see what resonates.
The thing
I mean,
about
because like,
the thing about content, it's something else you might want to do as well. Is like so I think the way the low quality content, or what do they call it? The way they determine if it's helpful or not is basically
helpful
at this
content.
point they're looking for new sites that are adding a bunch of content that are not adding anything new.
Yeah.
So but I think that's how they basically check for AI. They
Could be.
basically say, okay, are they literally saying anything new? Or is it literally stuff that's just been repeated a bunch of times already? And so if all of your content, if you're not adding anything, so you said you've human and edited it, and so that's a good start. But is it adding anything new, or is it literally like are you saying anything in kind of like a different way, or is it still really just the same exact recycled information? So yeah, you could start building links, and you could start trying to like maybe add some things to these articles to kind of add your own like spin to things. Um, just make it actually unique. Make it show Google that you're not just using AI to pump out
Yeah.
articles, which you've done.
First person
Um,
experience, stuff like that too.
yeah, add some. Yeah, just you gotta kind of bring your own thing to the table rather than so why would Google want to start rewarding something with rankings they're already ranking 100 different websites with the same thing.
Hmm.
Just think about it like that. They're literally already ranking 100 different websites at least with the same information if you just like spun it with AI or whatever. Um, but yeah, so that's what you start doing what Nick said and start building some links and maybe start doing some work on the content. And then if that doesn't work for a while, I think I would still like to eventually try like moving things to a new domain and just see what happens. If you build links and you do some work to the content, you can't get anything to work. I don't really see anything wrong with doing that. Anything else to add, Nick?
Well, I mean, it hypothetically though, like the backlink profile to this domain looks fine. The history of this domain looks fine. If we're
Yeah.
talking
So
about
the
it,
the
it's a
one thing that
content issue.
the one thing that makes me pause though is because you said that the domain looked really big before and they were only getting like 100 traffic or whatever. Um,
I mean, it's just an e-commerce website. Like maybe it wasn't optimized, etc. But it was a legitimate site, right? Like, so they weren't doing anything nefarious. There's no reason to think it'd have a manual penalty or anything like
Maybe they
that.
did get one somehow. I don't know. Maybe they got blacklisted. Maybe they were like selling something like illegal or something. I don't know. Look at the niche.
I
I mean, they
mean,
they could have been, they could have done something where I don't I have no idea.
It's literally all
But just if it's a huge
it,
website, big brand with a bunch of stuff and only getting 100 traffic, it's kind of weird on its own.
no, it's definitely weird. Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking if you can't get this thing to take off and resonate, content's probably an issue. You could try sending it over, but it might be at that point it might be time to start fresh, quite honestly.
Yeah. He says the original site was all HTML pages, so that's why I stuck with the first year all HTML pages.
Gotcha.
Yep. Well, yeah, let us know in the group because I know you're active in the group. So let us know what you end up doing. Let us know. He says I just recently switched it and dropped all the HTMLs. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it should really matter too much at this point. You know, kind of just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks as far as it goes right now.
Yeah, that's an annoying thing too, is buying a site that was all .html and trying to rework it. Like there's no real way that I have found to save the juice. So typically, they become dead pages.
Um, Thanks. He spent $1,000 on it. That's
Yeah, it's pretty pricey.
yeah.
But
How much
it's niche
how much would
down.
you have spent on that domain, Nick? You saw the backlinks. You saw the niche and stuff.
Well,
How much would you have spent on that? Nick's our domain hunting expert around these parts, so I just want to see what he would think. Because
I mean,
I would say
I don't.
I don't think I'd pay
I
more
would.
than like $100 and $200. I don't even know domain prices really these days, what you can get them on auction and stuff at. So, but at least what they were like a few years ago, I'd say no more than 1 to 200.
Yeah, that's that's fine. Yeah, I mean, the thing about domains is like you've got to take into account what you think you can do with it and run with it from there.
Yeah, how much do you like the domain
Like I
name and
said,
stuff?
if I looked at having looked at the backlink profile, yeah, it's definitely worth, from a ground up, you just bought the URL, it's worth a fraction of that. Like even if I was hunting it on like GoDaddy auctions, if I'm being honest, it wouldn't be going for more than a couple $100. And I think that would be on the pretty high end of it, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to sugarcoat a
Yeah,
bit, but like,
that's good to
yeah,
be honest.
you know, um, yeah, you paid a lot of money for this thing, um, but don't let that dissuade you. Like we said earlier in the show, there's always a way to rework things. So start with your content, start with some backlinks, get it going from there. Maybe throw that content into Surfer, try optimizing it to a certain degree, add some more images. Like literally every article here is walls of text. I
Yeah,
don't know if you've got any authority outbound linking. All I saw was
yeah, I didn't
interlinking
look for
in
that
all the
either.
articles that I checked. So maybe add some authority outbound links. Give this website some design elements. I don't know if that's 100% a ranking factor, but usability, I would think is factored in somehow. And this thing looks like very bare
Yeah,
bones.
try to
There's a
make
lot of
Google believe that you
articles.
didn't just pump out a site with AI. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, give it some qualities that somebody would want to see in a website, right? And then like a lot of these are walls of text. There's a bunch of H tags with like one sentence under them.
That's not necessarily
I
a
don't, I
bad
don't
thing
like
though.
to see
Actually, I've
stuff
started
like
to like
that.
to do that, like for like
Really?
H3s or H4s or something. Just really like breaking it down. It just really can help Google to understand things. Like instead of just
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but without like images and when it's like that common where it's like he has so many in a row that are only one sentence, it starts to look kind of spammy. Yeah,
Yeah, there's just like a lot of a lot, it just every page you go to, there's a feeling that it is kind of like auto-generated, right? So, try and fix that a bit. And like Chris said, add some first-person user experience or things that the AI did not generate,
you just have to add
right? Like
something new to the
so add something
conversation,
in the
right?
conversation. Yeah.
Something that hasn't been
Yeah.
said a million times before. Again, because
But
you're just trying to get around this
yeah.
helpful content filter at this point, right? If that is the case, which it has to be I mean, I would be pretty surprised if it at least wasn't part of the problem.
Yeah. And then another thing, like you could find another 301, maybe look through a different vendor, or try and figure out how to hunt on your own, even though it is tedious, it's worthwhile. Um, and you could find a 301 that could be worthwhile to use here. But again, like I think anybody who uses an expired domain without adding new backlinks to the flow, like they're missing a
Yeah.
heavy point, which is even though a website gets
Yeah,
bought
you can't just
up,
stop there.
that company, yeah, is looking to get press, right? Like what's natural is that a new company starts up, they're trying to get press, so new backlinks get created as the content goes up. What you've tried to do here is just basically piggyback off, what historically existed. And unfortunately, since it was an HTML-based site, it's, all the historical backlinks, unless they're pointed directly to the homepage, are kind of nullified. So, if you look at it from that angle, yeah, get a backlink campaign started, get that content worked on, and I would think, like, especially with the amount of content you've got, if there's not a hard line that Google can draw against it all being auto-generated content, then you should start being able to get it to move in the SERPs.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Be sure to check the links below for more info on this topic, as well as other cool stuff like SEO case studies, our Facebook community, and our link building services. And like always, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks, and happy ranking.